All right, it is now officially 12 noon. Welcome to the Aired Out Podcast, live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie, Vermont. I am so excited to have this gentleman on the line with us, Dr. BECKLOFF. Good afternoon.
You doing?
Yeah, we're doing just fine. You're a licensed, first off, thank you so much for joining us on the Aired Out Podcast. You're a licensed professional counselor and trained play therapist for children. You specialize in family counseling and parenting to address emotional and behavioral issues. How have things been at the BECKLOFF Pediatric Behavior Center with COVID?
Well, when COVID first hit, there was a drop, but now we are struggling to keep up with all of the calls that are coming in. So it certainly has created some difficulties with our kids and with our teenagers, and it seems to be stronger than ever, those difficulties.
There's a worrying link, as you are well aware of, between rising ADHD symptoms and too much internet. Are you seeing that? There's been some write-up in the Wall Street Journal lately. Actually, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been working with kids and teens for 40 years. I'm a little old, but, I've been around this whole genre of ADHD, attention problems, and, things have changed, obviously. Now, understanding the characteristics of ADHD is important. Understanding how kids just come built different and uniquely on the planet is important. But, I think that every adult, whether it's parents, whether it's anybody on the street, are wondering what is happening to our world ever since the advent of that thing that we call the smartphone.
Yeah.
And with the advent of tons of games and now all of the social media things that are out there, it's a worry, and I think there's some validity to the concern.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases, I think many of us would agree that social media can be designed to be addictive. They want you to hang out on their platform for as long as possible, and frankly, that's how they make the coin.
You bet. I mean, the customer of these apps is the advertiser, which brings about money. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily wrong, and I don't know that they were really trying to create anything except, and I don't believe they certainly did any brain research on what they were creating, but I mean, they were looking at what's going to hook people in,
right,
and create the money. And so I don't know that there was any real attempt at trying to harm anybody, but what hooks?
Right.
What makes people keep coming back?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of, studies on this, brain scans of Chinese college students showed that areas involved in addiction in their brains were highly activated, that in those that were watching a lot of social media, and specifically TikTok. And I know they've got a couple of different companies that are equivalent in China to TikTok, but this kind of stuff activates apparently the reward centers of the brain. So
oh yeah, and we all can get caught up in that. I mean, eating, for example. Well, we need to be eating. That's why that's there. But then, yeesh, we got a problem with eating in this country. But that thing is going on in that brain, that thing that makes us want to eat. It's called the dopamine effect. And
right.
Eating and sex are obvious, but then other things can be triggered by that too, like alcohol and drugs and smoking and gambling and social media apps.
Yeah, of course. And it's not just kids. I mean, My God, so many adults, even myself, we just at times have a really difficult time putting the phone down and paying attention to what we ought to be.
Right. And then when you have teenagers, and I specifically mentioned teenagers because this is a really important time in their brain development. Their brain is growing in its ability to handle long attention spans. They're growing in their ability to focus and to restrain their impulses. And when this is going on, I mean, I'm concerned because I believe it's creating the brain's neural pathways to not do that. That's the problem. Now we're not working on impulse control, attention, regulation of mood, and all of that is in our mission control center, which is the prefrontal cortex. That's
Yeah.
the area that is growing and continues to grow until about the age of 25, as we now know.
And now there's a proposal in California that could basically Instagram and TikTok could be getting sued for addicting kids.
And no, I don't know how that's going to be going down, obviously, but
You think there's going to be a big tobacco moment for social media comps?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's going to be hard, but my opinion is it cannot be a good thing. I mean, there's several things that parents can do, obviously, to try to ameliorate some of the damage. I
Yeah.
hate to say damage because, it is something that's kind of intriguing and interesting to everybody on the planet, whether you're an adult or a teenager or a kid. But what are we doing to also stimulate the growth and the development
Yeah.
of the brain as it needs to be developed?
Right. It's funny. I will, I'll show a video to my 17-year-old nephews. But if they don't want to sit through even seconds of the pre-video, they just want to see the accident. They want to see the skateboard fall, or they want to see the funny moment. They don't even have seconds to sit and wait and watch the video and be patient. They just want instant, constant gratification. They want to cut right to it.
Yep, that's it. Instant gratification. And, I think we're all kind of there. I want the instant gratification. I want to watch the movie that blows up everything rather than looking at the documentary about grass. I mean,
Yes.
It's just the way we're kind of built. But at the same time, we're going to need to get these kids with their brains growing. And as I said before, growing those neural pathways up to that prefrontal cortex where they are exercising the impulse control, the attention regulation, regulating their moods and not suddenly going into an angry fit, which makes me wonder about even all the shooting that's going on, where people maybe have also been around a lot of video games that are about shooting, but beyond that, they haven't really learned how to restrain themselves. And we've got so much in the news today that makes you wonder, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why are we getting so much of that?
Carl Marcy is a psychiatrist at Mass General Hospital in Boston. He's quoted saying, "It's hard to look at increasing trends in media consumption of all types, media multitasking, and rates of ADHD in young people, and not conclude that there's a decrease in their attention span." Do you agree with that? And is there really such a thing as ADHD?
Well, I believe there is. I mean, everybody comes built uniquely, and we're probably all on the ADD spectrum
Yeah.
somewhere. And depending on the day, I'll get up, I'll forget my keys, I go out, the car won't start, I have to come back in.
Sure.
Stress creates that as well.
Sure.
So we're all going to have some times of that, but everybody's built differently, and there's kids who truly come built where they're much more unable to manage that. And the trick, of course, is we want them growing
Is
and
the,
developing.
Yeah, yeah. Is this a cycle though that we can break? If people are on the spectrum of ADHD or they've just been diagnosed with it, are they more likely to become addicted to TikTok and get the quote unquote TikTok brain or reels on Instagram or Facebook?
I hate to tell you, but yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, totally correct. These kids are much more at risk. I mean, somebody once said at a seminar I was attending that said, video games are God's gift to ADHD kids. Well, yeah, okay. The screen is changing fast, things are moving quickly. It pulls their attention in like nobody's business. But that doesn't exercise attention. It just doesn't. It's increasing the problem. I'm not saying never ever watch TV or movies or video games or anything. It's a part of the world as we have it, but it's not helping.
So,
It sucks their brain in, if I can put it in such a nondescript way.
so social media can trigger ADHD, and ADHD can trigger more use in social media. This is a cycle that's pretty alarming.
Yeah, that's the thinking. I mean, one of the things that we have to remember is that in terms of research, um, it studies don't prove causation, they find an association. So
Hmm.
we have to be careful about research, but at the same time, it seems to be pointing in that direction, and you've made a very good point. Now, um, some of these kids probably naturally have a really strong ability in that prefrontal cortex and can manage it maybe more effectively. However, it's not helping anybody. It doesn't help kids. Now, what do parents do? And that's the big question too, of how can we help our kids to grow and develop?
What's the answer to that? Like my mom and like your mom, they just shut the TV off and say, "That's it. You've had your 20 minutes of TV, or your video game, or your iPad, or whatever it is. It's time to go outside and dig holes and climb trees and rake leaves and
Well, and my parents said, of course, I'm one of four. They were like, "Don't come back until it's dark."
right,
They
yeah,
were way ready for us to get out of the house for many good reasons.
sure,
But, we live in a world where people are worried and scared and wondering who's going to pick up their kid and all that. But I wasn't raised that way. We were just sent out,
yeah,
which you hit on something I think that's incredibly important, which is swap screen time for real time.
yeah.
Exercise, play, and play that is not with video games or TikTok or any of that.
You know,
Yeah, get them.
I watch my little girl who's 7. I watch her play and I observe her carefully and I see the imagination at work. I hear her verbalizing the plot, the storyline. I see what she's doing, and I make sure to not interrupt that or get involved with it, but just to stand back and observe, because at some point she's going to stop doing that
Right.
as a little girl.
And that is so important. Okay, I have a granddaughter now. She's 8. That girl can just be in her fantasy play,
Yeah,
playing with toys. I cannot tell you how that brings about growth in that prefrontal cortex. And
yeah,
one thing that you can do is sit down with
right.
them, get on the floor with them.
Yes.
I love adult attention. I do something called play therapy. And I can't tell you, the kids that come to see me cannot wait to get in that playroom.
Yeah.
But one of the secret elements that I bring to bear is myself. The presence of another person enhances that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And they can't wait to get back there.
You know,
And
it's sometimes I'll move in and she'll incorporate me into the play. She'll give me one of the characters and then she'll tell me what role I'm to play and what I have to do,
That's perfect.
which I've done. But there's other times where she's like, Dad, you're interrupting, or I'll talk to you later, and because she's really choreographing. She's the
Yeah.
director. She's the director of her own movie, her own storyline, and it's the creative energy that's coming out of her is amazing. But other
Oh, yeah.
times she'll want to unplug and just plop on the couch and let someone else create the plot, the storyline. Let someone else provide the source of entertainment, and she's just a spectator.
You know what? I'm so glad that you are fascinated by that play, because it is fascinating. It's pretty incredible what they come up with. A 7-year old
Mm.
and what she is able to put together in that play. And that enhances the neural pathways to move up into that prefrontal cortex, where she is learning to exercise restraint in mood, attention, whatever you may want to call it.
Sure.
All of it. You're in the prefrontal cortex now. And I love it that you're sitting down with her and really trying to pay attention to her leading, which is, you be this person and da 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 da. Or I don't need you to be here.
Yeah.
And but physical presence brings about attention. For example, let me give you a little example. If a kid walks by a ball, picks it up and throws it, and it knocks on the floor, they'll keep walking. If they get up, throw the ball, it hits the floor, and then I get up, pick up the ball, and hit it across the room, and it hits the wall again, suddenly there's a connection. They look at me, they laugh, they giggle, and we're doing it. It provides a connection, which only builds back into what we need.
Hmm. It's so fascinating to hear that. When you and I were kids, we were buckled in the back seat.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad were driving. We went on road trips. We asked the question often,
Yeah.
are we almost there yet?
Yep.
And we were told no. We didn't have cell phones and electronics in our hands to keep us. We didn't have DVD players mounted on the back of the head of the seat in front of us.
Right.
We had to play tic-tac-toe. We had to do games, count cars, license plates, road signs.
Those dang license plates.
My
Yes.
God, I'm making both of us sound like we're old hokies here, but seriously, we had to provide our own source of entertainment, whether we were driving half an hour with Mom and Dad or whether we were road tripping to Florida and we had 12 hours in the car.
Right.
And Sherilyn and I said, before Lily was born, we would see other parents at restaurants or wherever, and their kids would have a some kind of electronic device, whether they were flipping through something or just watching something, and we said we will never be those parents. We'll never do that. And now we find that if we go to a restaurant, that we can actually have some conversation with each other if we know that Lily is preoccupied with watching something else. I mean, what's happened? What's happened? I'm guilty of it too. What's happened to this world?
Y'all are guilty. And I love what you just said. There's a fine art to conversation, and it is so important to develop. So that right there is also growing the brain in beautiful and magnificent ways. One of the things that I was going to say too, with regard to these things, we have to help the child to practice restraint.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're at the restaurant, no. And by the way, my granddaughter that I was talking about, 8 years old, her name is Lily. So
Oh, wow.
we got the same girl.
No way.
So, yes, Lily. But, we've got to practice restraint. And yes, they're going to fuss. They're going to yell. They're going to get mad at us. But when we practice stopping it strengthens the connections in the brain that allows us to stop again the next time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
We have to practice it. And those are the kinds of practices that we don't like, that nobody likes. I did not like learning my multiplication tables.
Right.
Didn't like them,
Sure.
but those were good for the brain. I was asking someone, because some people, I'm one of these people that do not write well. My handwriting is enormously bad. So I asked an occupational therapist one time, and they work on that kind of fine motor stuff. I said, "Do we have to teach these kids? Can't we move them on to typing?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Yes,
Yeah.
but writing is good for the brain. Yes, it's going to be hard for them. Yes, it's going to be difficult for them,
Sure.
but it helps the brain to grow."
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that kids aren't learning cursive anymore, and that it in another however many years it'll be obsolete. But that's so interesting to hear that. Yeah, yeah. And by the way, all doctors have horrible handwriting. I think you'd agree. All of them.
They do. How do you breathe? At least now they're mostly typed, the
Yeah.
prescription. But used to be, when the olden days, when they wrote them out, I could not read them. I wondered how those people could really decipher what I was getting and if I was getting the right thing.
Are you concerned? Do you have advice for parents everywhere, other than what you just said, which is practice restraint? But are you concerned with the trend of which we're going? Are you with regard to ADHD?
Yeah, yeah. I think it is a valid concern. My concern is the brain is not developing like it needs to. It's important that we look at this. Now, yeah, there's some other things that can be done. Get the kids out.
Yeah,
Uh, go. Obviously, it's good to be involved in sports. It's good to have play dates. It's good to have family hikes and trips to the park. That builds the brain. We don't think about that, but it just does.
yeah.
Like you said, digging a hole in the back. I can't tell you how many times we like to dig a hole in the back.
And climb
Uh,
trees.
yes, yes. You might break your arm, but that'll
Sure,
heal.
we all did.
And get out. So get out, get out, get out. Um, Another one, I hate to tell you this, but I know this is being said all over, but when you have a teenager, it is very, very difficult ensuring good sleep.
Yeah,
My
right.
word. It is essential for focus and attention. And there's a lot of parents now, and there's going to be some teenagers that would hate me for saying this, but they take up the phones and other devices every evening
Sure.
at night, and they're put in a basket and they can pick them up in the morning.
Ooh.
Uh, Teens have got to sleep, and I cannot tell you how many teens have told me that at 3 o'clock in the morning, so and so was texting them, and at
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning. This is so important. And we're also dealing with something that's critically important, which is in the news right now. It's what you referred to from the beginning. Our teenagers are becoming more depressed and more anxious.
Sure.
That's a problem. And we're not just talking about kind of depressed and kind of anxious. We're talking suicidal
Yeah,
and
big time.
killing themselves. I'm not saying social media is killing our kids, but we got to be aware of the needs of our kids. And we have way too much depression. There's a link between how girls see themselves
Yes.
when they look at TikTok.
Of course, and Instagram especially. Yeah, big
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
the algorithms that the science behind this stuff, the what you every time your finger comes down on your phone and you touch something, every video you watch or link that you touch is going
Right.
into an algorithm, and you're being spied on. They know what your interests are. They know what kind of videos you like to watch, and they know how long you're watching them for too.
Well, and with girls, I raised two girls, and they're adults now. But what they've told me now as adults about what they were walking through, which I didn't know about, we don't know.
Sure.
But it they had some pretty hard times with dealing with depression about body image.
Yeah, of
It was
course.
there. I mean, I did notice as a parent, they would be saying things like, Dad, do I look fat? Dad, do I
Yeah,
look fat? You know, I'm a therapist. I was encouraging them
sure.
and affirming them all the time, but society, and now we've got TikTok.
Yeah, and the other platforms as well. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to blame TikTok, but all of the other platforms
And then
that,
you take this, all of this without a pandemic involved,
uh,
and I mean that's one thing. But throw some isolation into the recipe here with a global pandemic. Um, you know,
I'll tell
and
you, I
cover
put up,
cover up kids' faces with masks so they can't see each other's smile or be
yeah,
frustrated. They can't see
yeah,
that.
right, right, which is not good. And like I said, I put on my COVID weight.
So did
You
I.
know, it happened because that dopamine was working really good in terms of the food
Yes, it
and
was.
getting out, and so no, it created much havoc, and I think we're still dealing with the havoc, especially with teens with regard to that anxiety and depression. I have so many kids that I'm struggling with that can't go to school. They can't go in. They're too anxious. They're too uptight.
Not amazing.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
suicidal, and we're needing to send them off to protect them. It's a really, really hard time for parents right now, and the simple things are very important.
Sure.
uh, Getting out, obviously talking with our kids,
Yeah.
but helping them to do something like restraint.
Yeah.
Let's this, like my parents said, you come back when it's dark.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When the street lights come on. Yeah. Oh man, it was a different world, wasn't it? Though it was just
Yeah,
so different.
yeah, yeah, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, my dad, who was in his upper 80s at the time when my little girl was born, was like just looking at me saying, "You got a lot of work to do, son. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world
Right,
that's beyond just the physical interaction with others. The the
right.
the digital planet is the metaverse is just insane. It's crazy.
Well, and we get drawn into it too. We get pulled into it too.
Of course.
I'd like to watch this TV program rather than sit down with my kid who's playing with their toys,
That's right. That's right.
Uh, and so obviously it has to start with us. I think I love it, what you're doing with your Lily,
Yeah.
and sitting down with her and just enjoying what she's doing.
Right.
That she has this amazing brain, and they do,
Yes.
and they can put things together that is unbelievable. So kudos to you. You're doing a great job with that girl.
Well, listen, how do we learn more about you? I've got your email here. I've got your website, which we've shared up on the page here. But if folks want to contact you, or they want to learn more about your center and what you do, or maybe ask you a question, what's the best way? Just your email?
They can do that, or they can even just go on the website, and there's a spot for questions or contacting us, and that goes straight to me. So that's an easy way as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thanks for all of your time coming on the Aired Out podcast.
It was great being with you.
Well, we appreciate it, and we're gonna hang on to your number here and give you a call in the future if we have any more comments or ideas or questions.
Sure thing.
All
That'll
right.
be great.
Thank you, my friend. Right there, Dr. Dean BECKLOFF from the BECKLOFF Pediatric Behavioral Center. Great conversation on the podcast. If you have any comments, questions, link them up, drop them right there. We want to hear what you have to say, and we're going to post up his email if you'd like to reach out to him directly and thank him for coming on Aired Out. We're at the podcast studios, ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barre, Vermont. Thanks to all of our sponsors. They're right there in front of you on your screen. We appreciate each and every one of them, making it possible every day right here in Barre, live on Aired Out.